Hello, Hadley and Eliza. God, I miss you guys. I love you so, so, so much. I can't wait to see you, hug you, kiss you, buy you ice cream, just do all the things we used to do. So, anyways, all I can do, though, unfortunately, with the coronavirus is to read to you. So I'm going to read a little bit more from the Hoboken Chicken Emergency by Daniel Pinkwater. So remember in the previous one we read, he had just brought the chicken home to show to his mother, the giant 6-foot-tall chicken. So, you brought home a live chicken, his mother was getting excited. It was the only one I could find. Arthur started to cry. Oh, I needed to turn a light on here. Hold on. I'm having trouble seeing the book. Oh, that's better. It was the only one I could find, Arthur started to cry. I went to all the stores and nobody had any turkeys or chickens or ducks. And finally, I bought this chicken from an old man who raises them in his apartment. Arthur's mother was headed for the door. "Mama, it's a big chicken," Arthur shouted. She opened the door. The chicken was standing there, shifting from foot to foot, blinking. "Cluck," it said. Arthur's mother closed the door and just stood staring at it. She didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, she said, "There's a 200-pound chicken in the hall." She was talking to the door. 266 pounds, Arthur said. He was still sobbing. 266 pounds of live chicken, his mother said. It's wearing a dog collar. I'm supposed to return that, Arthur said. Arthur's mother opened the door and peeked out. Then she closed the door again. She looked at Arthur. She opened the door and looked at the chicken. "She seems friendly in a dumb way," she said. "I thought we could call her Henrietta." "You were supposed to bring home an ordinary chicken to eat," Arthur's mother said, "not a 266-pound chicken to keep as a pet." A pet. "It was the only one I could find," Arthur said. Arthur's little brother and sister had been watching all this from behind the kitchen door. "Please let us keep her," they shouted. "We'll help Arthur feed her, and we'll walk her, and we'll take care of her." "She walks on the leash very nicely," Arthur said. "I can train her, and she can she can cluck if burglars ever come. She's a good chicken. Please put her in the kitchen and we'll discuss it when your father comes home," Arthur's mother said. That night the family had meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and vegetables for Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody thought it was a good meal. Henrietta especially liked the mashed potatoes. Although Papa warned everybody not to feed her from the table. "I don't want that chicken to get into the habit of begging," he said. "And the first time the children forget to feed or walk her, out she goes." Papa had decided to let Arthur keep Henrietta. Every boy should have a chicken, he said. And there they are, all at the dinner table, with Henrietta looking for scraps. Chapter 2. Arthur got up early after Thanksgiving to take Henrietta for a walk. Before going out, Arthur made a cup of instant cocoa for himself and gave Henrietta the leftover mashed potatoes. It was just getting to be daylight when he led Henrietta out into the street. She was blinking. Arthur thought that Henrietta might enjoy a walk by the river. They started walking east on 4th Street. There wasn't a single person in the street. It was too early. An empty bus was headed down Washington Street. The driver saw Henrietta and ran into a garbage can. It was one of those wire ones. It got a little bent, but the bus wasn't damaged. There was a cold wind muffling Henrietta's feathers. Arthur zipped up his jacket. Near the river, there was an iron fence that ran all along River Street. Beyond that were the docks, where all the big ships came in. There was a place in the fence big enough for a kid to squeeze through. Arthur just squeezed through it lots of times early in the morning. He liked to walk around and look at the ships before the dockers came and got busy loading and unloading. He forgot about getting Henrietta through the hole in the fence. She was much too big. Arthur tried to get her to jump over the fence. He wasn't sure whether she could do it or not, but he couldn't get the idea across. He whistled and clapped his hands and tugged on Henrietta's leash, and she just blinked at him. Arthur was starting to get the idea that chickens aren't very smart. The night before, when Henrietta was sleeping next to him in bed, Arthur had made plans to teach her a lot of tricks. Now it didn't seem very likely that he was going to have an easy time of teaching her anything. Once Arthur was satisfied that he couldn't get Henrietta to jump the fence onto the docks, he led her up River Street to the park. There was some playground equipment there. Swings, sleds, a jungle gym, you guys know. One of the reasons Arthur liked to get up extra early was that he could fool around with the playground stuff without any of his friends seeing him. It was really stuff for little kids. Arthur's brother and sister played on it. Kids Arthur age didn't fool around much with slides and that sort of thing anymore. Arthur sat on the swing, he let Henrietta loose, and she pecked at the playground gravel. Arthur twisted the swing around and around until the chains were twisted in a long spiral. Then he let it unwind, spinning him slowly until he dragged his toe in the gravel. His toe pushed gravel in front of it and made a groove with the ridge of the gravel on either side, a circle under a swing. Henrietta continued to peck at the ground. She was clucking to herself. She seemed content. "Henrietta," Arthur called. She didn't even look up. He clapped his hands. "Henrietta, come here." Henrietta blinked at him. Arthur jumped off the swing and started walking away. "Okay, just stay here by yourself." Henrietta galloped after him, crashed into him, and then they had both gotten their balance, followed Arthur around the playground clucking. She wasn't all that stupid, just slow and clumsy. "Henrietta, Henrietta, heel, girl," Arthur said. Every now and then Arthur would run a few steps, and Henrietta would scurry to catch up with him. She was doing pretty well for a chicken who had never been trained before. Arthur was having fun. Every now and then he would put Henrietta on her back and scratch her neck feathers. She liked that. She stretched her neck and made a sort of cooing noise. There was a day off from school, Thanksgiving vacation, and Arthur knew that some kids would be along in an hour or so. He had Henrietta pretty well trained to follow him. That would go over pretty well, but if he could teach her one or two more tricks, then he could really impress the other kids. He taught her to swing on the swings. It was easy. First, Arthur jumped on the swing and stood on the seat. Then he got off and did it again to show Henrietta what he wanted. Then Arthur got Henrietta following him pretty fast and jumped over the seat of the swing. She jumped over it too. They did that a couple of times. Now Arthur jumped over the seat, spun it around, put his hands in front of him, and shouted, "Stay." Henrietta remained, perched on the swing, waving her wings in the air for balance. "Good chicken," Arthur said. She caught on pretty fast. After a few tries, Henrietta would jump up on the swing when Arthur said, "Hop!" Then Arthur would get behind her and swing, not too fast. Henrietta seemed to be enjoying the whole procedure. And there's what that looks like. That's it for today. See you next time. Love you both.